Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. As NATO leaders meet in The Hague, a Russian missile strike on a passenger train in southeastern Ukraine has drawn renewed attention to the security situation. With civilian casualties rising and NATO deliberating long-term defense commitments, expectations in Kyiv remains high. Joining us today on TVP World to share the Ukrainian perspective is Mariia Ionova, a member of parliament from the European Solidarity Party and a leading advocate for Euro-Atlantic integration. Hello, ma'am, and welcome to TVP World.
Morning. Thank you for inviting.
So what is the message Kyiv is hoping to get from NATO leaders following the latest assault?
Probably, as you have mentioned, the attack to Dnipro and to civilian train. Let me start from that because it's also a part. It should be the part of conversations during NATO summit, as really every day bring us more terrible air raids and missile strikes, bombards by Russia, and as we see, dozens and dozens of civilians are being killed in Russian missile and drone attacks against civilian infrastructure and residents all over Ukraine, because it's not only about Dnipro, so it's about Kyiv, Kharkiv, it's about Zaporizhia, it's about Poltava, Sumy, and unfortunately the list is almost endless. And as yesterday Russian ballistic missiles hit Dnipro, and according to our rescue service and local authorities, about 100 civilian resident buildings were damaged, and more than, for example, 100 cars destroyed. As you saw also, dozens of killed people and wounded. So it's about fuel stations, it's about local shops, it's about schools. So and again, it's not only about Dnipro, it's also about Odessa, as you have seen. So that is why we think when we are talking about NATO, the main topic during NATO summit, it should be Russian terrorist acts, and that is why we think that Putin is definitely doing it on purpose, really to discredit the NATO summit, and also to show to international community that he doesn't care about any peace initiatives and ceasefires calls, including by President Trump. So that is why he has to be pressed, Putin, only by language of force, and that is why we need in tactical dimension, more air defense system, and more really military support to Ukraine. But what is more important is to strengthen our common strategic pressure to Russia with isolations, with sanctions, with Trump's action to enforce peace on Russia and to stop really further Russian aggression against Ukraine and in future, by the way, Europe and democratic world. So I hope that Trump will clearly see that the weak Russia and strong Ukraine are in the best interest of the US. So that is why after the first day of the Hague summit, of course, it's a little bit too early to comment on official final results and the impact on the European security and the war in Ukraine. But important that it is really very important to make NATO stronger. And that is why the idea and already the result, 5% of GDP commitment, is absolutely important. And in Ukraine, of course, we hope for strong messages for increasing military support and also to stay on the track, on the path of our membership perspectives. So that is why we hope that there will be no any concessions to aggressor. And of course, a main topic is Russia Federation and how to stop them altogether.
Right, like you mentioned, the timing of this attack being the NATO summit taking place in The Hague feels very much like a provocation and sort of like a spit in the face of the military alliance as well. Do you think that partners from Washington will be able to perceive it the same way, seeing that the intention have been to take a step back from supporting Ukraine?
I hope so. I hope so, and I hope so that it will be not only the words, that it will be actions, and that not only statements. Yeah. Because again, Putin, he understands only the language of strength, and we make altogether, we have to make him to force to stop his terroristic acts. Because if the war will not be stopped in Ukraine, it's a pity for me to say, but it will go further to Europe, more deep. And Putin is very sincere and public on that issue. So he's preparing. By the way, they have adopted the strategy for his military production for 10 years till 2036. And more than $1 trillion they are going to input into their military machine. That is why it means that he is going to have a war in Europe. That is why we have to do everything to stop him by sanctions, by giving more military support to Ukraine, and of course to make him isolated. So, to have all this more strategic and decisive steps, I can say.
Right, so like you mentioned, of course, it is a little bit early to tell what the results are, but hopefully Ukraine will get the support it needs, and while Russia will get some sort of, be it sanctions, be it military limitations. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your input and insight. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.